Friends, welcome to the Word on Sunday, a platform to reflect and pray with the scripture readings of every Sunday. St. Thomas Aquinas has written extensively almost on every aspect in Christian theology. One day, impressed by his writings and how much of contribution he has made to the theological treasure of the church, Christ appeared to him in a dream and asked Thomas, "Ask of me anything that you would wish." St. Thomas Aquinas replied, "Jesus, Domine non nisi te." Lord, nothing except you. On this 18th Sunday in Ordinary Time, the readings give us a proper sense of direction as to what we need to seek, what we need to aspire for, and fix our focus on the things of above and what really matters to God. Greed is mortal sin because it puts away God for everything else in the world. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "There are enough and more resources in this world for every person's need, but not for every person's greed." Greed can be in multiple forms. Greed for money, for power, pleasure, and honor. So when a person becomes greedy, a person basically puts God and the things of above away from his focus. It is said, life is what happens to us while we are busy making other plans. And in this pursuit of making other plans, greed could be one of the predominant things that I could be preoccupied with. Winston Churchill once said, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." Greed makes a person to act for oneself. In this process, we destroy others on the way of what I want. And greed shuts a person's ability to love God and others. That is why we need to kill greed before it kills us. In the gospel today, the vanity is mentioned about this rich fool, and the text highlights 6 times the I and 5 times the my. Why did God call him fool? Because of 3 reasons. He was called a fool because he forgot God and failed to be rich in what matters to God. 2, he was called fool because he forgot those others in need. And 3, he was called fool because he forgot that he is going to die and does not take away anything with him. Due to greed, when something becomes my idol, I become idle, ill, immobile, insensitive, insecure, and insane. The first reading focuses on the Creator and helps us to understand that we can be fixing our gaze on the created realities. The Bible tells us we are created in the image and likeness of God. Imago Dei. Therefore, we need to aspire for such godly things, such heavenly things. And vanity, as Kohelet mentions, is contrary to charity. It makes me an idol of myself and shut every kind of door in the process of me relating with God and others. Vanity is contrary to charity. And what is the antidote for this? The responsorial psalm tells us, "If today we hear his voice, let us not harden our hearts." And greed could make our hearts go hardened, our ears, our hands. Vanity hardens our hearts. hands and ears and makes us become insensitive and idle and even insecure. And Paul, writing to Colossians, urges us to fix our gaze on what is above and heavenly. And Paul is quite practical, being a Jew, and helps us understand to put to death all forms of idols, immorality, impurity, and perhaps all kinds of foolishness, all kinds of greed, which make us foolish at the end of the day, because we know that nothing is coming with us. It is interesting to see one of the first things I asked my pastor when I came to my new assignment here at St. Pius X, as he showed me the rectory around. He showed me my living space and the rectory. And at the end of the conversation, I asked my pastor, is there more storage room? In other words, I was looking for more space to put my stuff. It is interesting how even by default, our minds are moving towards such possession of space, of things, of materials. Gospel, Jesus tells us to avoid all forms of greed and be saved by stopping ourselves, becoming foolish from all kinds of greed. St. Augustine beautifully capitulates this. Our hearts are created for you, O God, and they are restless until they find rest in you. What are my heart? What is my heart running after? What is that makes me restless? Are these materialities, all these such vanities? Or am I running after or aspiring for the things of above, the things that are Christ-like and heavenly? Albert Einstein says, quote, no problem can be solved by the same consciousness that caused the problem in the first place, end quote. So the problem of greed and the aspiration for materiality and all forms of acquisition and possessions cannot be solved by the same consciousness of what I am aspiring for. We need to embrace a higher consciousness, as Paul tells us in the second reading. Above all, if we are raised with Christ, seek what is above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Think what is of above, not what is of the earth. And he tells us to gain and embrace that consciousness of Christ, of heaven, of what is above and what is of heaven. Vanity, in all its form, is against charity. When something becomes my idol due to greed, I become idle, ill, insane, insensitive, and insecure, taking away my focus from seeking what is above and Christ-like. On this 18th Sunday in Ordinary Time, let us ask Jesus to give us that higher consciousness, and let us be prepared to embrace this higher consciousness of what is above, what is heavenly, and what is Christ-like, and avoid all forms of greed and all forms of foolishness. Father Praveen Lakkisetti, here at St. Pius X Catholic Church in San Antonio, Texas. Thank you and God bless.